We were living in a building under 11 metres, so 4 storeys in southeast London, and there was no remediation needed on our property whatsoever. So we never got investigations, but the cladding was safe, the insulation was safe, there's no issues with the building whatsoever. But we couldn't sell because we were under 11 metres, and as a leaseholder we couldn't get the required documentation from our freeholder to prove that the building was safe. It took us 4 years to be able to sell, and in that time we'd had kids. We just couldn't sell. In that time, house prices went up a lot in the area that we were living in the area that our kid was at school. So we've had to shift a bit to be able to afford the property that we wanted. We're very lucky now that we've managed to move, but it took, as I say, 4 years and 3 attempts to sell. The first 2, we couldn't get, the buyers couldn't get a mortgage. And weirdly, on the second attempt, Nationwide refused to lend against us and asked so many questions of our freeholder, and the freeholder is a housing association and couldn't and wouldn't reply to most of the queries. And when it came around to our third attempt, Halifax lent with no questions asked whatsoever. So it's really inconsistent and really frustrating, and as if selling isn't complicated and stressful enough, you have this extra layer of chaos around it. I think there needs to be pressure on the lenders to be consistent. You can't have this issue where some lenders will lend against the same building and some refuse to lend at all. Obviously, I think the government shouldn't have a clause for under 11 metres. I don't see why we're different. It's not safer necessarily. I understand evacuation issues, but that doesn't mean that the buildings aren't dangerous in themselves. And it means that people living in these lower buildings are liable for all the costs. And of course, leaseholders shouldn't be liable for something they didn't control and didn't build.